This is the Project Management Podcast. We bring project management topics to beginners and experts. Find us on the web at www.thepmpodcast.com or send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com. Hello and welcome to episode number 119. I am Cornelius Fichtner. This is the Project Management Podcast for the 16th of May 2009. Nice to have you with us. Have you ever seen Microsoft Project? And after you saw it, did you feel like this was a tool that you'd like to use to manage your projects? If the answer is no, then you are like most companies who don't understand the power behind Microsoft SharePoint and use it simply to share documents or spreadsheets among your team. And that is where the book SharePoint for Project Management comes into play. It demonstrates how SharePoint can also help you organize and manage complex projects. In today's episode, we welcome Dux Raymond Sy, who is the author of SharePoint for Project Management. It turned out that in the interview, we talked less about the book and more about the fact that the most important factor of solid project management with SharePoint are the processes that need to be in place first, and that the book and SharePoint, they're just tools to help you eliminate wasted effort in managing your projects. Before we get into this interview, there are 3 other items that we need to talk about. First, we are giving away 2 copies of Dux' book. Second, we announce the winners of the giveaway of the books, CDs and DVDs from Tom Verges from the last couple of episodes. And third, I have a gizmo for you. So, first of all, if you would like to win a copy of SharePoint for Project Management, then, as always, please send an email to pmpodcast@gmail.com with the subject SharePoint. Send that email to me by 27th of May 2009, and you will get a chance to win a copy. As always, the subscribers of the Premium Prepcast are, of course, automatically entered into this drawing, and they can win a copy of their own. Second, here are the winners of our giveaway of the many items that we have from Tom Verges. First of all, we had his book, The Invisible Elephant. The first one was won by Fernando Lenga. He is from Buenos Aires in Brazil. He's one of our free podcast listeners. And the premium listener who won, his name is Robert Bassett. Then we had a CD, an audio CD titled Raising Your Cultural IQ. And this one goes to Otbar Alzbul. He is a Jordanian who lives in Riyadh in the United Arab Emirates. And then we also had a CD and a DVD titled Sourcing Across Cultures. The CD goes to Saeed Sair. He lives in Tumba in Sweden. He's a free podcast listener. And the DVD, the video DVD, goes to Amane Nakayama. He is a premium subscriber from Japan. And after I had drawn his name from the hat, I looked at it and I thought, that name seems familiar. And turns out that Amane is one of my PMP students from my Prepcast. So congratulations to all 5 of you for winning books and CDs. The third item that we have for you before we get to our main interview is a gizmo. Last year, I attended the PMI Global Congress in Denver. And at that Congress, I met a few people who work for PM Boulevard. So I checked out the site, found that it has a ton of good information for project managers, and I called Jennifer Gerdish last week. She is the content editor, and I asked her to tell us all about PM Boulevard. Hello, Jennifer, and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, Cornelius.
Tell me, what is PM Boulevard?
PM Boulevard is an online community that addresses the challenges and issues that project managers and their teams face every day. We have regular features and new media channels that focus on emerging trends, techniques, tools, and PM thinking.
And who is it for? Is it just for project managers?
It's for project, program, and portfolio managers primarily who want to connect to their peers and contribute knowledge back to their community. We have information for all breadths of PM, from government to commercial, from the newbie project manager to the subject matter expert to the agile project manager.
And what will our listeners find on PM Boulevard? What kind of information is there?
PM Boulevard is all about content, community, and collaboration. We have a new issue every 2 weeks that has featured articles, best practices, templates, white papers, polls, and industry trends. Our blog has regular Q&As with authors and well-known PM social media experts, and we also offer member discounts for industry events and publications. Currently, we're offering a member discount to Project World in June.
Okay. And will the users find anything on PM Boulevard that they cannot find anywhere else? Because information is usually widely available throughout the internet.
PM Boulevard is a product of Robbins Joya, a company that has been practicing project management for over 29 years. We have over 600 consultants with best practices that have been tried and proven in several different agencies. So our library is full of all of these proven solutions.
Okay. And how will they access this content? Sounds like there's a lot of it. Is it free, or do they need a username, or how does this work?
It's absolutely free. All you have to do is sign up for membership, for a username, and then you have complete access to all of our wealth of information.
Okay, so you don't have something free and then there is also a premium with it, right?
No, all of it is free.
Okay, excellent. And finally, what is the URL, the address where people can find PM Boulevard?
You can find us at pmboulevard.com, where you can also sign up for our e-newsletter, which keeps you informed about our most popular articles and member benefits. And you can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Excellent. Jennifer, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And here is our Gizmos disclaimer. We do not endorse the gizmos that we present in this segment. We just want to tell you that they exist. Use your own judgment. The companies and individuals who are presenting a gizmo here do not pay us for the privilege. But now let's move on to the interview. With over 15 years of experience in IT, Dux Raymond Sy has earned a reputation as among the leading experts in leveraging technology to enhance project management. He is currently a managing partner and the chief evangelist of Innovative E Incorporated, a Microsoft-certified business technology consulting and services company that serves startups to global 50 clients. As a thought leader in maximizing project team collaboration, he is focused on empowering organizations on how to leverage the benefits of collaborative tools with quantifiable goals such as increasing productivity and efficiency, decreasing collaboration redundancies, and streamlining electronic communications. He has spoken at various PMI chapters and events. Also, he has developed and facilitated PM workshops to government organizations, Fortune 500 companies, non-profit institutions in the United States, the Bahamas, Barbados, China, the United Kingdom, and the Philippines. Enjoy the interview.
Project Management Podcasts Feature Interview. Today with Dux Raymond Sy, Managing Partner of Innovative E.
Hello, Dux, and welcome to the program.
Hey, Cornelius. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Your new book is out. It's from O'Reilly. It's called SharePoint for Project Management. Now, I've seen and used SharePoint myself. So my question for you, my first question has to be, why would anyone want to use SharePoint to manage their projects?
All right. Very good question, Cornelius. In fact, you're not the only person who's asked me this. Other people would ask me differently. They would go, why use SharePoint versus this product or that product? Or I'm happy with this tool that I have. What's the value of SharePoint? Well, let me give you a big picture of where SharePoint can be valuable to me as a project manager.
Okay.
Now, one of the things that's quite interesting, there was a survey done, I believe, by the PMI Special Interest Group around tools and all that. And they did a survey around the world asking certified project managers, what's the number one tool you use for managing projects? And 3 months later, the answer came back. Guess what number one tool was?
SharePoint?
Of course not. No, it's not SharePoint.
Email?
One more chance. Email, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it just blew my mind because, hold on, how is email the number one tool of project managers in the 21st century if almost everybody I know has an iPhone, people have GPS in their cars, and they have DVR TiVo at home, and what do they use to manage projects? Email? Come on. And as I read the report, it was just mind-blowing because it's true. Like, if I were to ask you, okay, where's that status report? Knee-jerk reaction? You pull it up in email. Where's that requirements document? People would automatically go to their email. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with email, but it's not efficient. For example, if a customer calls me up and says, hey, Dux, where's that? What did that status report look like 5 weeks ago at 9 o'clock? The whole idea of looking through it through email or other means of storing it just takes a lot of time and very, very ineffective. So in short, why is SharePoint valuable for project management? Because SharePoint addresses a lot of these project inefficiencies. Things like version of documents, versioning. How many times did we get ourselves in trouble because somebody overwrote the requirements document, or we had to call IT to pull some backup up for our project schedule? But with SharePoint, we don't have to deal with all that. We as project managers, or even our team, are empowered to address all those issues and address all those situations where traditional tools can't. And I can expound further on that if you want to. Mm-hmm. But it's a whole idea of empowerment in dealing or solving, more importantly, a lot of these project inefficiencies.
Okay. When we're talking about project inefficiencies here, let's look at the project types. So what would you say? What project types does SharePoint lend itself to in regards to supporting project management activities?
Very good question. So a couple of scenarios. For example, if you're in an environment where you're engaged with, I don't know, maybe at least 5 or more individuals, it could be customers, management, your actual project team, and you're in a project environment where documentation is critical, traceability is critical, and also the timeline is tight, SharePoint lends itself very, very well. The reason being is, for example, let's say you're working on a requirements document collaboratively amongst a group of people. What you can do is you can take this document, store it in an environment like SharePoint. And for those not familiar with SharePoint essentially gives you a web-based environment. So you can take this document, store it in SharePoint, and you can define it so that anybody touching it, working on it, would have the versions automatically stored, so I don't have to worry about people overwriting files. Number 2, if somebody's working on it, the second person won't be able to work on it because, again, you can have tools built in or tools enabled such as check and check out. So you can have all those already built in. And the beauty of this, again, you don't have to rely on IT to do it for you. You are empowered to do it. And if you're thinking, well, Dux, you don't know the people I work with. They're technically not there. Well, the barrier to entry or the barrier to use SharePoint is quite low because as long as you're familiar with Windows, Office concepts, and basic web concept, heck, if you know how to update Facebook stats, you're a good candidate. So,
so does that mean your book is therefore aimed at the project manager and not at the system administrator, right?
Absolutely. The book I've written, in fact, I put in a disclaimer. I go, look, this book is not for IT admins or developers. This book is intended for PMs where you're familiar with project management concepts and you want to take advantage of SharePoint to help you, to assist you to solve or address a lot of your project inefficiencies. Mm-hmm. If you're the technical type, you want to learn about programming, this is not the book for you.
Okay, so how long does it take me to properly set up SharePoint so that it works in order to manage my project?
Again, the question is, it depends, the type of project, but typically,
yes, of course.
Typically, to set up an environment, let me compare and contrast and give you a good idea of why this is beneficial. forget SharePoint. Let's say 10, 12 years ago, Cornelius, if you want like a project website, what's the process in a typical organization?
Oh, it took about 3 months, and you needed to talk to the web admins, and they had to do it for you. And
exactly.
By the time they were done, your project was over.
Absolutely. And again, not to the IT department's fault.
No, it was just the tools we had at the time.
Yeah, and also you go through some kind of request process, help desk ticket, hey, IT, I need a website. It depends how important you are or how important that project is. It might get done, it might not get done, right? But with SharePoint, if it's implemented correctly, PMs can go there, define their website, define the components in the website. For example, I want a place where people can store files. I want a shared calendar. I want a project task list. And you can also define who can come in. And that's another critical area that traditionally it's been quite difficult, defining permissions and access privileges. But with SharePoint, you as a PM, you can define all that yourself. And doing all this can range from, 30 minutes to 2 hours, and you're good to go. Now, that is a very compelling reason for leveraging a tool like SharePoint.
Right. So you're also saying you don't really need all too much in-depth SharePoint know-how, right?
No, not at all. And again, specifically for project managers, what I've written for this book blends well for project management needs. And what I'm seeing too, and the reason why I wrote this book is prior to writing this book, there are a lot of resources for SharePoint out there, don't get me wrong, but either it's too technical, how you hook up SharePoint with this server or that server, how you program, or it's too simmered down, very, very generic, right? But as a project manager, I want to find the value in this platform where it helps me solve a lot of my challenges. The last thing I would be interested in is you giving me a new tool, SharePoint, yet I can't relate as to how it's going to help me as a PM. And if that happens, I'm going to look at this tool as yet another burden that IT threw upon me.
Right.
And that's not the intent. And unfortunately, I've seen a lot of organizations where SharePoint is but SharePoint is introduced like a brand new Lamborghini Diablo. Nice car. Stick, very expensive.
Yes.
But people look at it, nice car, and they realize I learned how to ride a bike yesterday. So I don't have time for this. As a project manager, I'm so busy, so let me just park this car in the garage.
If I understand you right, then it's more important for us project managers to understand project management and what we want to do conceptually than knowing SharePoint and knowing how to hook up the server to SharePoint, right?
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, though, I dearly and passionately love this tool. At the end of the day, SharePoint is a tool. It doesn't mean that if you have SharePoint in your environment, all your projects will be on time, on schedule, on scope. In the end, you have to have a well-defined process. You have to understand where the pain points are. And what do I mean by pain points? For example, traditionally, it's hard to come up with a change request system. We know it's a great idea as project managers to have some kind of change request process, but then to execute it, it's kind of hard. What do we do today? We use email, we use Word documents, and we just lose track of all that. Well, what if I tell you can build a change request system in SharePoint in about 15 minutes without programming? Ooh. And that's a compelling reason.
Okay, take us through the steps here. What do I do in order to set up a change request system in SharePoint? Let's do this quickly. High level. Let's go through this use case, right?
Yes. So we all know why change request is important. That's great. So we'll minimize scope creep and all that good stuff. So let's say you have a SharePoint site. What you do is you create what's called a custom list, and you can call it anything. Call it a change request form. That's something people would understand. Right. So you define this form and define the information you want to capture. For example, who made the request? What would be the impact of the request to the schedule and to the budget? The description? When's the due date? Let's keep it that simple. And SharePoint, built into it, it has a technology called SharePoint Workflows. And after you define this form, you can now then define, once somebody submits this form, when they hit submit, the first thing what SharePoint should do is ping the project manager, which is me, and let me know somebody sent a change request. Okay? And as a PM, I would confirm that I saw the request. And once that happens, you can tell the system, you can tell SharePoint, if the PM confirms, then move this request to the next state called it's in review, and then alert the requester. And then after the review process is done, the PM talks to the CCB, Change Control Board, comes up with the decision. They tick another box and say, we've made the decision. Yes, no. And then also define after it's yes, what to do next. When it's no, what to do. So that whole process of decision making can be automated. Now, we can make it a way, too, that, for example, a change request was submitted and the PM just lose track of time, forgot to confirm. We can make SharePoint remind the PM as well, hey, look, this request has been sitting there for 3 days. Look at it. It's been sitting there for a week. If the PM doesn't respond, ping the program manager for that matter. So you can build the smarts into SharePoint to address this process. And again, no programming needed.
Very nice. I also see your argument here that this is something that helps you get rid of all of these inefficiencies with a little bit of understanding of how SharePoint works, web-based tools, etc. You can build yourself a nice basic tool that helps you manage your projects. But again, the processes have to be in place, because if you don't have a way of managing your changes in your organization yourself, if you don't have that defined, if you don't define prior to your project, this is how we will manage a project change request, then the best tool won't help you. But in this particular case, if you have the processes defined, if you have a change control board, if you know what's going to happen with an incoming change request, you can easily build it into SharePoint, seems to me.
Absolutely. And again, I'm fully in that mindset as well, because let's say you don't have any project management process, and you and I know when we say process, it doesn't have to be complicated, but it's something we can follow and repeat throughout different projects. Because if you don't have this, the last thing you want is sit in front of SharePoint and go, okay, what will I do here? What would I need? I want to build a change request form, okay? Then you're just scratching your head, not knowing what's going to happen. Another example is when you say process and metrics. For example, project tracking. And I've seen a lot of folks, how they track projects. We're 50% in, we're 70% in. But then you ask the same question 2 weeks later, we're 73%. What does that mean? So one of the things I harp on, and you'll find this in the book, is look, things like project tracking, you got to define, come up with a process or a way to track your projects. Now, personally, percentage doesn't mean anything to me. In my project team, for example, I want to capture the actual time spent on a specific task or effort, whatever. So when I ask my resource, okay, John, how much time have you spent on this task? John will say, well, Dux, I spent 10 hours. I need 5 more hours. Now, that's meaningful to me. That's something I can measure.
Yes.
But without that, again, SharePoint is a tool.
Absolutely. What about risk management?
Very good. With risk management, SharePoint has a built-in, it's a feature called an issues list. So certainly you can use this as your risk log. And the beauty of this is not only can you document all your risk in your project, but you can track it in a way that you can relate it to a specific task. So you can define criteria like, okay, for example, you can say, okay, if this task is 5 days behind, this risk looks like will happen, go ahead and ping the PM and let him know so he can start activating the contingency plan. All
right. Let's do a quick change of pace here and open up your book, because there's something in there I'd like you to explain to me. What is a Dux Quacks?
Yeah, I've been asked that a couple of times. When I was writing the book, the publisher, my editor, they encouraged me to put little best practices in the books or my opinions and my thoughts. And we were going back and forth as to what to call it. And my editor has this brilliant idea. Well, call it Dux Quacks. It's like little snippets of wisdom or lessons learned or things you'd like to share to your readers. And that's why we call it Dux Quacks. So throughout the book, there's little snippets of Dux Quacks, be it a PM best practice or a SharePoint best practice.
Funny. Yeah. Let's take a step back from SharePoint now, and let's take a look at the organization that we have here. What maturity level does an organization have to have in order to be able to use SharePoint to manage their projects? Where do we have to be?
Very good. The beauty with SharePoint, it's not really intended for your organization to be very strict, very mature in some kind of, CMMI level 3 mindset. The beauty with SharePoint is it takes where a lot of organizations are now, which is not fully mature, not much processes. All they do today is either manage projects through Excel or email and take them to that next level. And when I say take them to that next level, it's not such a big jump comparing it to having not too much of maturity and then using more complex tools like Project Server or Clarity or other high-end tools. These are great tools, don't get me wrong. But what I'm finding with a lot of these EPM tools, as they would call it, is there's a lot of assumptions built into these tools where it assumes, first of all, that your organization is very mature in your project management process. And based on those processes, you're going to tweak these more enterprise or EPM level tools to suit those needs. And what I'm seeing is some organizations not having a high level of maturity trying to use these EPM tools, it ends up just being a catastrophe because resources don't have the maturity level in project management. They get challenged with a lot of these high-end features or complex features, whereas with SharePoint, it's relatively basic compared to a lot of these EPM tools, but it takes, again, less mature organizations, less mature project teams to the next level, better than just using Excel or email.
Absolutely. And is there a point where you'd say you should stop using SharePoint, or is SharePoint something that can live next to EPM tools?
Very good question. Now, is there a point that you should stop using SharePoint? If you're in the Microsoft environment, meaning you're using Microsoft tools and you're using a lot of their other tools,
yes.
Actually don't stop using SharePoint because, for example, Project Server is a platform built on top of SharePoint.
Okay.
So if you do decide one day to, we've enjoyed SharePoint and our organization is very mature now with our PM processes, we want to roll out Microsoft Project Server, you can certainly take what you have and roll it into Project Server, which is great. Now, if you decide not to do that, will SharePoint be too basic for you? Well, actually not. If you look at what's out there, because of SharePoint, there's a lot of other tool sets being created and being introduced. For example, third-party products from EPM Live or Bamboo Solutions, you can add on to SharePoint to do a lot of other things. Resource management, portfolio level management, program level management, etc.
Okay. What is the largest project that you personally have managed using SharePoint? Large in terms of duration, budget, and participating team members.
One of the, I guess, most the word large, I guess it's relative, but I would say complex in the dynamics of the project that SharePoint really helped us with is a project where I had a team, which is part of my organization, my company, out in Colombo, Sri Lanka. A couple of great folks out there helping me out with the development, around 4 people. And then the client was actually based here in the United States. And then I'm here, and we had a team in Atlanta. So first of all, the team members being spread across the world was already contributing to the complexity.
Yes.
But second, this project is very, very, how should I say it, document intensive or information intensive because it's around compliance, a specific area of compliance. So everything we do and everything we go through needs to be documented in one shape or another. So having SharePoint as a repository, for example, helped us greatly because everything that was developed, all the artifacts that was generated, it was all stored, all the versions were stored. Customers can come in any point in time and look at a specific version or iteration of the artifact we're developing. So that's the second piece where it addressed that project. And then third is developing a lot of these quote-unquote reports. Because, again, with SharePoint, through the use of web parts, a specific stakeholder would like to see high-level budgets, where we're at, and a certain stakeholder is more interested in schedule. So we've developed certain reports, quote-unquote, or dashboard. I always tease people I meet, if you want to get promoted, use the word dashboard. So we created these project dashboards unique to stakeholders. So when they come into SharePoint, they'll see the information that's relevant to them. And that alone saved us, there's a couple of us taking on the role as project managers for this specific project, but saved us a lot of time from manually building these reports week in, week out. It's just, autopilot. They just go in anytime they want, and the data is real time. So based on the information we're putting in around budget, around schedule, they'll see these reports updated. And then lastly, since this is a heavily regulated project, requirements clarification was also critical, where we need to document and track all the changes around the requirements, or if there's any new requirements. So we took advantage of SharePoint's capability of being able to use a discussion board. So we took the discussion board and used that to clarify requirements. So we go back and forth. And the beauty of this is 6 months down the road, everything that was talked about 6 months before is all stored in this central repository. Anybody can go look at it as long as they have the privilege to do so. So we won't play the game of he said, she said kind of thing. Whereas today, a lot of times we clarify these matters via email, which is primarily a one-to-one type of communication, and it's not transparent to the whole team or all the stakeholders.
Okay.
So that's something that benefited us greatly.
Excellent. Let me close this out with my last question here for you, and this is taking us back almost to the beginning of the of our interview here. We talked about the fact that the book is more aimed at the project manager, and we also talked about the fact that it is really more important to have your processes in place and to see SharePoint as a tool. How would the project manager use your book, SharePoint for Project Management? How would they use this book in order to properly set everything up? Is it a cookbook that they can follow, or is it something that you pick and choose?
Absolutely. It's essentially a cookbook they could follow. The way I wrote this book is through a typical basic project lifecycle. So I start off the chapters with typical project phases: project kickoff, planning. So it's, instead of looking at the tool and say, click here, click there, I take a phase in the project. Okay, during project kickoff, this is what's going on. This is project initiation. This is what you talk about. And by the way, this is how you should set up SharePoint to assist you. So, for example, during project initiation, that's when I talk about, this is when you can start creating your project, SharePoint project site. So I step the reader through on literally what to click, what to look for, what to use, and more importantly, I have a companion website for the book where I have videos on how this is done. Just in case they don't have immediate access to a SharePoint environment, as my instructions is laid out, they can watch this video as to how it's done. So down the road, if they start using this in their SharePoint environment, they can literally follow the video and do it. And then I talk a lot about key project management concepts, and then tying it into how SharePoint can help these project management scenarios.
Excellent. Once again, the book is called SharePoint for Project Management. It's by O'Reilly. Dux, thanks for your time.
Hey, you're welcome, Cornelius. Anytime. And again, congratulations. You're doing a great thing here, and all the best with your endeavors.
And that was our interview with Dux Raymond Sy on his book, SharePoint for Project Management. Don't forget, if you would like to participate in the book giveaway, then send an email with the subject line SharePoint to me before May 28, 2009. That's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. If you liked our podcast, then why not forward it to your friends, your co-workers, project management colleagues, or anyone else who might enjoy it. As always, you can find us on the web at thepmpodcast.com. If you are a project manager who wants to become a PMP, then the easiest way to do so is with our sister podcast, the Project Management Prepcast, and study for the episodes by watching over 100 video episodes from pmprepcast.com. And if you are already a PMP, then stop by at pmlectures.com, where we go beyond just delivering PDUs. We give you exclusive training from the brightest minds in project management today. Please send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com, and when you write, yes, you know what's coming, right? Tell me where in the world you are writing from. And finally, we have this. All project managers face problems on Monday mornings. But the good project managers, they are working on next Monday's problems. Until next time.